Okay.
Just, you know, because I need
Okay. Okay. If you,
Just pull your mic ahead a little bit so it's, you can move it down.
So you control, so the buttons light up for you, is that?
yeah, when they push on it, I typically get, I don't know if yours works or not. Oh, yeah,
It does.
okay. Good evening, and welcome to the Council Advisory Committee meeting of the 12th of November 2019. We are using Facebook live streaming on Facebook Live. There's no live interaction, but you may leave comments. The most up-to-date meeting package is on the Town of Kentville website. It gives me great pleasure this evening to introduce the Town of Kentville's new CAO, Kelly Rice. So on behalf of council, staff, and the citizens, Kelly, welcome to Kentville. This meeting is called to order. Have all of the councillors received and reviewed their meeting packages? Does any member of council have information pertaining to a matter before this council which has not been publicly circulated? We will be voting by electronic ballot on all matters except administrative. Are there any conflict of interest issues we should be aware of before this meeting commences? CAO Rice, could you please take the roll call?
Yes, Your Worship. Everyone is accounted for and in attendance, including all of senior staff.
Thank you. You have before you the proposed agenda. Are there any additions or deletions? Okay, that's okay. I think we have the most up-to-date version. So if I could have a motion to accept the proposed agenda? Thank you. Thank you. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. You have before you the Council Advisory Committee meeting minutes of October the 15th, 2019. They have been distributed. Are there any errors or omissions to the minutes? If not, the minutes are approved as circulated. If yes, the recording secretary will annotate the minutes in red, and the approved minutes will be added to the electronic meeting file. All right, no errors. It's all good then. Presentations. To our presenters, thank you for appearing this evening to make your presentation. You will be provided with 10 minutes to make your presentation. I got the handy dandy here, followed by questions from council. Your report is public record and will be considered by council for recommendation to the next council meeting. There is no decision this evening. You may wish to remain until we conduct new business, at which time we may be making a recommendation to council for further consideration. So our first presentation is our Regional Emergency Management Organization Winter Storm Plan with Dan Stovall. Dan, the floor is yours.
Your Worship, Council, thank you for this opportunity to continue putting forward our Kings Remo Emergency Management Support Plans to continue on building our safe and resilient Kings County. The plan this evening is looking at winter storm preparedness and response. Funny with a bit of snow coming again. The plan itself is only one part of our overall preparedness. When I just wanted to update you on recently, we also had in October approved a memorandum of agreement between Kings Remo and Kings Transit for emergency transportation services. That will go a long way to supporting it. It's not just evacuation, it's setting up comfort buses. Transportation of first responders is required and using bus services which have built-in Wi-Fi for other services. That same template of an MOA for transportation is being looked at with Kings Point to Point and other Western region transportation service providers. And for wintertime, we're also looking in agreement right now with the Annapolis Valley Ridge Riders, a great source of resource for transportation of first responders with respect to their snowmobiles and other equipment that they have. The plan itself, of course, understanding Kings County, we all understand the risk and understand hazards in Kings County. Extreme cold, heavy snowfall can immobilize the entire county, from road closures, power outages, disruption in communication services, and no heat for several days. And albeit we recently put forward the heat advisory response system, a lot of impetus from that with Public Health and Dr. Robert Strang understanding the requirement for cooling centers. As an emergency coordinator for Kings County, my bigger concern is the winter storm outages and looking at the ice storms of New Brunswick in 2017 and having to have those shelters in place and that for our residents as the winters go forward. Under severe conditions, winter storms can require residents to abandon homes and seek shelters. We just have to look at White Juan. I mean, we've had some significant winter storms since 2004, but White Juan set a record for a 24-hour period of snow with 60-plus centimeters. Total of 18 municipalities impacted across the province. Businesses, schools, government offices shut down for 2 days. And that's part of our exercise program when we sit and meet with the CAOs, understand business continuity. What does it mean for essential services? Paying somebody's dog license is probably not an essential service, and where our workers are, and can our workers get into the communities? A state of emergency was declared in Nova Scotia with curfew invoked in Halifax, and roads were so bad that emergency staff had trouble getting to work. And it's not just White Juan. If you look at Hurricane Dorian, emergency first responders and power company people were put off the roads until the passing of that storm system to get out and do repairs. So at the emergency center, which was activated in Kings County, getting calls 2 hours into it, how come it's not repaired yet? It's a big part of our education program and understanding what takes place to make sure our first responders are safe, that they can be out there working. The purpose of this plan, like the other ones, is to provide information and guidelines that may be required in the event of a winter storm impacting Kings County. Our emergency management considerations, comfort centers and shelters. We have right now 22 comfort centers across the county, but I just finished meeting with the community of Morden. Wonderful facility, and they're just looking at the generator program for the municipality of County of Kings to have a generator there. Great facility that can hold almost 100 people. The shelters, 6 strategically located shelters across the county, and with those emergency transportation services, where sometimes in community outreach people say, I want to walk out my front door to a shelter, it's understanding we can provide the transportation to where the shelters are located, and with the support of Red Cross. The need for generators, fuel, and supply for essential services. One of my major roles is the critical infrastructure. Understanding that you may have your power outage, but I'm concerned about the critical infrastructure of our fuel supplies and other things that go with that. Need for heating equipment and responding to building collapses first responders may have to do in emergencies, and search and rescue, and working closely with the Valley Search and Rescue people. Our emergency management priorities, as always, within the incident command system structure, is life safety. And that life safety, when we teach incident command, is of the responders. Responders don't just go blindly into something without making sure they're going to be safe to respond to something. The support for stranded and evacuated personnel, and protection of critical infrastructure. We have significant critical infrastructure across the county that has to be protected, and of course taking into consideration the protection of the environment. Reduction of economic impact. We cannot just shut down our municipalities for weeks on end without an economic impact. Returning communities to normal as soon as possible and as soon as safe to do so, and reducing the impact to private property where possible and appropriate. The structure, as I've said, a number of our EM support plans is similar throughout. The staff in the Emergency Coordination Center can pull off any of the support plans and know exactly that the public education awareness is in Section 4. The Annex A is always the state of local emergency, so there's no problem in finding the information. It's repetitive in nature in some format structures, but unique to each of the emergencies. One of the things in awareness and talking to the public is when things are activated early in a winter storm so that we can get people into an emergency centers, to have those pre-scripted messages, have the one message, one voice, one message out to the public, whether the message is going to East Dalhousie, Scotts Bay, or now today in Morden, to make sure that information, working with the public information officers across the community and getting that information out to everybody. Very much a structured, taking it forward. We took this forward to the Planning Committee in September. October, it was approved to go forward to all the municipal councils, and we're now here on the 12th of November. Last week it was at the Wolfville Committee of the Whole, and the sequence of council meetings as outlined here. And coming up in agenda item 8 alpha, your 8A, your worship, is the recommended motion to move this plan forward.
Excellent. Wow, Dan, 6 minutes. Whew, you're getting good at this.
I can squeeze in another plan.
You probably could, you know. Thank you. That was wonderful. Are there any questions for Dan? Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Your Worship. Dan, I just I've been sitting on the REMO committee with you for the last year with Her Worship, and I just I'm no longer deputy mayor, so Councillor or Deputy Mayor Gerard will be taking over my role as that. So I just want to thank you for your efforts and your commitment and your diligence to this. It's very important for all of our communities, and you just exemplify what it means to be safe, and so I really appreciate that about you. I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, we've got a motion under our new business, so we'll be talking about it again then. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is PACE program with Jeremy Lutz from Equilibrium Engineering.
Evening.
I won't start till you're all.
Do I get hit Dan's 4 minutes too?
It'll cost you.
Where's the,
Five on the keyboard.
oh, thanks, Dan. You know. Okay. Got some backup here just in case, but evening, council, mayor, new CAO, welcome. My name's Jeremy Lutz. With Equilibrium Engineering, we're 38 paces away from you. We were here recently. This is I'm with Julian Boyle. He's one of our new engineers, and Stefan Tilak, who's joined us just in the end of August. Over a long term, we stole them from HRM, but that's a different story. So we're here tonight talking about the PACE program, which is Property Assessed Clean Energy. And we're currently running a program in Berwick that we've named the Berwick Green Energy Program, which would, we're going to reference the Berwick program several times tonight as an example of what we're doing. I just wanted to comment that this is an opportunity for the community to really take on a leadership role in energy efficiency. We take our work seriously. We're doing some really good stuff in the community, the province as a whole, and we see this as an opportunity for Kemptville to make a move and do something innovative with some others in the province. So maybe 12 minutes. Maybe 12 minutes.
All right.
10 minutes. I could talk quick. We're going to talk through our experience with the town of Berwick, what it would look like for Kemptville, what you could anticipate as a program here for the town, and next steps. So the Berwick PACE program, which we've named Berwick Green Energy Program, we've been running it since May 2019. Really, that came as kind of part of a package. Julian and Stefan both have experience with the PACE programming from HRM Solar City, where they would have rolled that program out years ago, which still continues today. Essentially what we're bringing is, I would call it maybe PACE in a box. And this is a kind of a one-stop opportunity for the town of Kemptville to put a PACE program in place and use our expertise to do that, which is what we've done in Berwick. So the goal is to make these energy efficiency upgrades with the capital that's available through PACE easy for the homeowner, easy for the business owner. Life is complicated enough. We hear it all the time. Go to the internet, look for this. It can make your life more confusing. People do want to do the right thing. So here you'll see just the top screenshot. It's probably not the prettiest part of the website, but what we've done for the town of Berwick is we have berwickenergy.ca. This is the top of the landing page, which would encourage people to go and visit, show your interest. We say that Berwick Green Energy Program is empowering homeowners and businesses of the town of Berwick to perform affordable energy efficiency upgrades. So we would, part of the deal here, which we'll get to, would be to customize a page for the town of Kemptville. Okay. So far in Berwick, here's where we are. We have just under 20 homes have signed on with us. Wanted to use a reference here. Berwick has about 2,500 people. I have Kemptville the internet has Kemptville at 6,271. Bridgewater has 8,500. We know Bridgewater's been running a program for about 3 years. Last year they had 9 participants. So since May we are almost at 20. We're tracking for 40 to 60 in the first year. For the homeowner, primarily these are residential ones. For the homeowner, the goal is to reduce energy costs. Full stop. Comfort level at home, obviously less drafty home. For the town of Berwick, we would reduce greenhouse gas emissions. They, of course, own their own electrical company, so there's benefits of electrification. Sustainability appears to be simpler when we reduce fuels. And move to electrification. So, as a society as a whole, there's a benefit to electrification, not just if you own your own electric company. Okay, so there are, for example, we know in Wolfville there's some homes that have oil that are near the water table that they use. So interest is to get them off that. That could be the case somewhere in Kentville. Maybe somebody's near a water source and they're on oil. We don't know about it yet. And if we electrify, then we take that risk away from the town. So program finances, energy efficiency measures, pretty much, and this would be part of the program design with the town, but Berwick's opted for, you could even finance EV, electric vehicle chargers if you liked. Anything attached to the home, that would be for energy efficiency measures. Renewable energy, of course, solar and storage. Thinking about these opportunities here with the storms, we're going to see energy storage become a solution in those cases. Average project's about $12,000. High participant satisfaction, low risk for the town of Berwick. We started this program in Berwick with a work term student. He left. Stefan, who had worked with Julian at NHRM, we went and found him in Ontario in the woods. Brought him back to Nova Scotia. So I mentioned Stefan just because the good work is happening right now on his back. So it's important that, these, I wanted to read a couple participant testimonials. We feel fortunate to have participated in the Berwick Green Energy Program. The process was clear, easy, expedient, very affordable. Appreciated the prompt direction and communication from Equilibrium and the town of Berwick, who made having our heat pump installed a positive experience. Highly recommend the program. That's Stefan. Thanks. And next is, thanks for all your help, Stefan, with the Town of Berwick Green Energy Program. I'm thrilled to be in this program, much better than trying to do the right thing for the environment without guidance. I'll do my part to spread the word about the Green Energy Program and help ensure its success. So, well done to Steph. These are obviously on our website, which so I was comfortable sharing it. Okay, here's the meat. Here's the offer for the Town of Kentville. Is $2,500 for a startup package, which would get you a website, as we have berwickenergy.ca if you want to have a look at the full site. We would sit with the town, whoever that would be, and design the program specific to the residents. So you may want to go this way with something, you may want to go this way with something, term of loan, all these things are up for negotiation, customized to the town with our input. We would host you'll see here, our goal is to roll this out in January, depending on how things go here, but we would like to host a kickoff in January and then an industry kickoff. The other thing that's key is buy-in from contractors. So we all know what it's like to deal with a contractor that maybe you wouldn't have them back to your house. And we know what it's like to deal with a contractor that you would like to have back to your house. So we, through some diligence, have gone ahead and tried to secure just the positive experience contractors, we'll call them, okay? And then we would work with somebody at the town level on finance and what expectations would need to make sure that the monies were collected. So other than an upfront cost, there's no other cost to the town, other than potentially down the road there would be marketing costs. Which we don't know what those would be yet. The idea is that this would, other than some initial startup costs, that all we're doing is we're passing on our costs to you. It's just a cost recovery from a business perspective. And other than that, it's net zero money, a little bit of time from somebody in finance, okay? We charge a one-time program administration fee of 5% on top of each project fee. That's how we earn revenue against the project. As far as interest rates go, Berwick, they're charging 4% on the money. That's up to you. It seems to be a nice number. Uptake is good with that number. That would be part of a conversation to customize for Kentville. The goal is that the savings for the homeowner are greater than what the PACE payment would be. So this is 4% money over 10 years for energy efficiency upgrades. Sorry if that wasn't clear at the start here. So the goal is that what you're saving in your energy efficiency projects, the payment's less than that. We would provide a report, an update to you, so you know what's going on here with the program, and we would do it for 1 year. So let us in for a year, and let us show you what we can do. So what can Kentville expect should they come with us here on this journey? There's a burn-in here where we need to educate the community and educate the contractors and bring people on board and make sure we have buy-in. So give that, a quarter of a year, 3 to 4 months. Following that, we would expect 60 to 80 homeowners to participate and 10 small businesses, which comes out to about $1 million in revenue. So that is, keep in mind, that's probably new money spent in the community, employing local contractors and buying building supplies and this and that. And also, those homes are now more valuable than they've ever been. You change out your old oil tank and your furnace for a heat pump, do an insulation job, and all of a sudden you're a little more comfortable, but also your house is worth much more than it was 6 months previous. But that's where the real money comes in, because the net savings, the goal is that the homeowner will be in the money. Okay. How am I doing on time? Am I allowed to ask that? I just did.
You're over 10.
I'm on pace. You're
on pace.
Okay, on pace. So we would see hopefully a large reduction in oil use would be a goal. Definitely leadership opportunity for the town of Kentville in the region. We have brought to another opportunity here, but also there's some media coverage that would come with this. We can't promise anything, but we know that we just had the National was in Berwick, interested in what they're doing out there. And ironically, that was not about the contest that we won. That was not. So, I think that media, everybody wins here, really, I think is the message. Okay, keep going. So, next steps. Council motion to endorse the program to start in January 2020. Number 2, council motion to endorse Equilibrium Engineering to administer the program as proposed. And Equilibrium will work with town staff to prepare the program launch. In our minds, if it's January go, then once everything's in place, then we would meet, brainstorm over Christmas, advertise a town hall type thing, which would really be an info session. So while everybody's at home staring at their screens over Santa time, they'll see the message to come and join us for a town hall. Thank you.
Not bad. Less than 12 minutes.
All right. Okay. There we go. I just borrowed 2 minutes.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. Are there any questions from the members of council? Councillor Bolland.
Thank you, Worship. Great to see this come back. As you know, the former council passed actually a motion to endorse the PACE program in June of 2016, but it didn't work out. So I certainly support this initiative. We've got a lot of residents are concerned about climate change. They want to do heat pumps. I know a handful of homes in McDougall Heights that are facing south with some really awesome solar panels. So I think it's a small investment for us to look at. And we just came back from a provincial conference last week, and there's all kinds of federal money as well to help with initiatives with this. So if we can get our staff to work with you, put something together, I think it would be a really good thing.
Great.
That's my thoughts. Thank you.
Anything else? Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Jeremy. Great presentation. Very exciting. I'm on board. I think it's great. Just a question around. So it says, Town of Kentville will charge interest on PACE loans to homeowners to recover financing costs 100%, to be determined. Berwick interest costs are 4%. So just so I understand this, we have to make available a pool of funds for the residents so that they can purchase these, whatever it is, new doors, new units, new heat pumps, what have you, and then recover those funds back by charging them so much interest. So we would have to have X amount of dollars put away to lend out, correct?
They borrow from the town, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So in terms of the town of Berwick, and I apologize for not knowing this, any idea how much money they sort of put away in a fund for this? Just
Good question. I don't know that. Julian, if that's all right?
Julian Boyle,
thank
Equilibrium.
you.
They're probably going to be somewhere between, right now we're tracking $400,000 and $500,000 in kind of PACE loans over the first year of us administrating it. We're doing some, bringing forward some commercial PACE projects which can be a much wider
Mm,
variance than
sure,
residential.
yeah.
And we're seeing some of the small commercial projects are like $30,000,
Right.
but they go up to 150,000. So that, you know, 2 or 3 commercial projects can really kind of skew those numbers a little bit. But
Okay.
we're kind of budgeting about $500,000 right now for a Berwick PACE programming, and you know, Kentville's approximately twice the size of Berwick, and there's no reason I think the residents here and small businesses wouldn't participate in the same kind of rate that they are in Berwick. Yeah.
Okay. So this might be more of a question for Director Kroll. Is it all right if I ask that question now? So to have these pool of funds, is that something that we could secure through a debenture, something with Municipal Finance Corp, or is it?
I really don't have the answer to that.
Okay.
I would suggest that we probably don't want to tie up our own reserve funds in this manner.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's any outside funding, maybe CAO Race knows whether there is some, but I haven't heard of any. But my last understanding of this whole program was it was going to be federally run. And the money was going to be funneling out of the federal government to municipalities, and we were just going to be funneling the money through.
Okay.
That program wasn't going to come to effect until sometime in middle of 2020 is what my understanding is. So I don't believe that the town was interested in fronting the money. That was my understanding. We were interested in perhaps getting involved in the federal program,
Okay.
where the money would funnel from the federal government through the town of Kentville, and we would basically get money from the federal government and give it to residents to do whatever, as long as they were approved for the program. That was my understanding.
So I might add a comment
Okay,
here,
sure.
because I'm going back to almost square one here about the Solar City days, and I was kind of the lead on that with the city of Halifax, and lots of discussion with our finance people about that program, and that's been going on now for about 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
And, when you have a dedicated kind of revenue stream, like the homeowner's payments, it basically offsets the loan costs that you'd have. And so, you know, HRM was in essence borrowing the money from, it was a relatively small program in the scheme of things of the overall budget of HRM, but
Sure.
they were treating it just like any other municipal finance corporation loan, and,
Right.
and passing along those interest costs
To the-
within the program.
To the resident.
That's
Okay.
kind of why we had a to be determined interest rate here, because it really depends on what's the cost of borrowing here for
Sure.
the town of Kentville, and kind of what risk premium you maybe put on that to collect the
Okay.
money from the homeowners too, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. I'm quite excited about having a green program for the town. I look at the interest that we would charge, and the look at recouping the finances back, anything we front. I'm thinking that, if the town of Berwick can do this, certainly Kentville, with its good financial markers and so on, should be able to find a way to do this. So I'm looking forward to maybe working with our staff and finding a way to do this. Thank you.
Is there anything else? I have one question about the FCM. So FCM was talking about a PACE program and having the money in the pot that we could use. Is there any furtherance on that?
So they're still working through the programming details of it, and you're right, the CFO here is, it looks like it's good. They're talking about spring, summer of 2020. I think it's still be determined what the interest rates are they going to use it as a revolving fund and
Right.
charge interest? And that's typically the Green Municipal Funds kind of act in the past, is a combination of a low interest loan and a grant. I suspect it will probably be like a 1 to 2% loan with a 10% of the value of the loan grant. That would be my guess, but that's still, I think we're going to find that out in probably January or February. And
Right.
I think where Equilibrium's at is we are looking to kind of, I think, have a collective of municipalities submit an application to the FCM. I think that would be better on everybody versus individually
Right.
submitting. So that will certainly kind of, I think, possibly de-risk any financial or borrowing.
Okay.
whether that's enough to tip the balance of whether you should go ahead with a program or 1 or 2% loan versus maybe a 3.5% loan that you have with Municipal Finance Corporation, I can't really say, but you know, the grants are always help. So, you know, I think everybody would be advocating more to help support with a grant. But we've basically have the experience, and we're running our program now, which really I think could benefit the town of Kentville. And we're kind of, you know, there's a lot of like really very low, like kind of there's not a lot of legal startup here and financial startup. Like there's a lot of kind of lessons learned here that we can kind of bring to the table here for the town, and to kind of help kind of fast track and get everybody comfortable that, you know, that this is a very secure form of debt, and it really should not be impacting any of the other municipal operations or you know, capacity from a financial capacity.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Lots of food for thought. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to our department reports and recommendations. Directors will present their reports and will be accepted into record with one motion at the end of the reporting. Specific recommendations will be moved individually as necessary, and councillors may present questions and comments to the directors at the end of each presentation. Director Kroll, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. I think I'm on.
Yes, yep, podium's on.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's my pleasure to bring you the report from the Finance Department for the month ended October 31st, 2019. The second quarter utility bills were released in the middle of October with a due date of November 25th, 2019, and a request for proposals for external audit services closed on October the 23rd, and a recommendation will follow as part of my presentation this evening. We're looking at the Town of Kentville operating fund. The benchmark this month is 58%. If everything was averaged evenly over the year, revenue at October 31st exceeds the average at 86.2% recorded. We have taxes recorded at 99.7% at the end of October. Payments in lieu of tax, the federal payment in lieu of tax came in July, came on over budget $7,052. We're still waiting for the provincial government to send us its portion of the provincial property in the town. We have received payment from the Kings County related to its rental of the provincial property in Kentville. Under services to other governments, this section records the Kentville Police Services seconded officer and services provided to Kings County for snow removal, cultural, and recreation. One half of the secondment is recorded at this point in time, along with 100% of the county share of the library lease. Under sales of services, we have 6 months recorded for sales of services by Kentville Police Service for background checks, and we also have 7 months recorded for Finance Department services provided to Kentville Volunteer Fire Department. Under revenue-owned sources, fines, fees, and permits are reporting above the guideline due to the collection of animal licenses, taxi licenses, and provincial court fines. And rentals, as per usual, will show below the guideline as the arena ice rentals account for the larger portion of this section. Under unconditional transfers, the province forwarded 2 quarters of the Municipal Finance Capacity Grant, that's the new name for the equalization grant, along with the annual Power Corporation grant. Nova Scotia Power HST rebate arrived in July at $2,537 under budget. Under conditional transfers, 50% of the provincial law enforcement is recorded, along with 80% of provincial cost sharing for active living. Recreation Nova Scotia forwarded cost sharing of $680 for attendance at conferences by recreation personnel. Tyans provided $3,500 to the town for operations of the Visitor Information Center. The Rotary Club of Kentville gave the Kentville Police Service $800 to purchase bike helmets, and Valley Waste Resource Management Authority returned consulting management fees paid by the town last fiscal year. All of those that I just mentioned were unexpected revenues. Under financing and transfers on the revenue side of the ledger, all budgeted transfers from various reserves have been transacted. Expenditures at the end of October are slightly over the benchmark at 61.3% expended. General administration exceeds the yardstick due to change in staff complement in September, and payment of insurance premiums and bulk purchases. As well, 75% of the mandatory payment has been issued for assessment services to the province of Nova Scotia, and 100% of tax exemptions related to Section 69 and 71 are recorded. Protective services emergency measures exceeds the benchmark due to wages and materials consumed regarding post-tropical storm Erin in August and Hurricane Dorian in September. Transportation Services Public Transit exceeds the benchmark but reflects the payment schedule afforded by King's Transit Authority. The town received its share of the KTA 2018-2019 deficit position of $17,407, which will add to the overage. Payment has been made in full to Kings Point to Point for the year. Environmental Health Services exceeds the benchmark but reflects the funding schedule set out by Valley Waste Resource Management Authority, and Public Health and Housing falls under the benchmark as the accrual for the 2018-19 Housing Nova Scotia expenditure exceeded the actual billing. Environmental Development Services, Planning and Zoning exceeds the guideline due to legal expenditures and payment of the annual insurance premium. Other Community Development exceeds the benchmark due to 100% payments made to the Valley Wren and Kentville Business Community. Shade Trees exceeds the guideline due to cleanup after various windstorms this past summer. Recreation Administration exceeds the benchmark due to the expenditures related to summer staff and payment of the annual insurance premiums for liability and vehicles. Programs exceeds the benchmark because most recreation programs are held during the summer months. Facilities exceeds the guidelines slightly due to the maintenance of various parks and playgrounds over the spring and summer. And cultural exceeds the yardsticks as 75% of the provincial mandatory funding has been made for the regional library, along with full payments of budgeted grants to cultural organizations. Financing and transfers on the expenditure side of the ledger, debt charge principal exceeds the benchmark but accurately reflects the debt repayment schedule, and transfers to allowances and reserves exceeds the standard as all transfers to various reserves has been transacted. Regarding taxation, which is Schedule C, at October 31st, 94.9% of the 1920 levies collected, and this compares to last year's percentage of 96%. Totally property tax outstanding as at October 31st, 2019 is $488,734 as compared to last year's figure of $395,672. This equates to 94.8% collected in total, and last year's percentage was 95.7%. Schedule C relates to the sanitary sewer area service. This is a quarterly report, and this is for the quarter ended September 30, 2019. We're looking at a 50% percentage if the budget was consumed evenly over the year. Revenue overall falls short of the benchmark, reporting at 45.1%. One half the 1920 residential billings are recorded, along with 6 months of industrial charges. One sewer billing occurs annually, and therefore skews the percentages. However, extrapolating the current figures, it appears that the budget target will be met by the end of the year. Expenditures, on the expenditure side of the ledger, total expenditures are slightly over the threshold at 52.4%. Treatment and disposal agreement, County of Kings, reports slightly over the benchmark but reflects the billing from the municipality of Kings. Fiscal services are reporting at 95.1% and accurately reflects the debt repayment schedule. The transfer to the sanitary sewer reserve fund is complete for the year. At September 30th, the sanitary sewer area service is reporting a current operating deficit position of $94,049. Schedules E and F relate to the Perpetual Investment Fund for the month ended September 30. The Statement of Financial Position, which is Schedule E, shows the investments total $13.5 million, and in the middle of page 5 you can find the breakdown between all the investment instruments that we have, cost versus market. The Statement of Reserve, which is Schedule F, reports that at September 30, interest paid into the fund is $56,749. Dividends paid into the fund total $102,487, and capital gains are $127,877. And you can see the comparative in brackets next to that total. At September 30, the management fees total $14,907, and you can see the comparison there for the prior year. Schedules G, there's a number of them, relate to the capital investment plan for 2019-20 at the date this was written. The program has recorded $522,671 of capital acquisitions. You can see the information there on each of the individual pages. If you have any questions on any of those programs, you can ask the directors. They can fill you in on the details there. Schedule H reports on the amounts due to and from the County of Kings, and that's there for your information. That concludes my report for the month ended October 31st.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the director? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Director Kroll. I'm just wondering where the interest, dividends, and capital gains that are earned in the perpetual fund go. Like, do they go to capital, general revenue, operations? Where do those go?
The bill number 20, which is the bill that covers the perpetual fund, indicates that all interest and dividends shall be withdrawn from the fund as it usually withdraw them at the end of the year. They go to the Town of Kentville Operating Fund.
Okay.
The capital gains stay within the fund, and if council needs the capital gains drawn, they're certainly not, they're not locked in. They can
Right.
be withdrawn if council needs.
So, if council came up with a special project, could some of those funds be diverted to a special project?
If council wished to withdraw those monies, it depends on what the project is and how you wish to finance it.
Right.
I would suggest that the rate of return for the perpetual fund is such that you probably wouldn't want to tap those. You probably could borrow money at a cheaper rate and make more money on your perpetual fund. So
Okay.
there would have to be a discussion there as to exactly what the project is and the purpose of it.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Are there any further questions? All right, yep, moving on to your projections, please.
Does that, I'm not really used to this. Let me see, page down. This is my other report still in behind here somewhere. Oh, let's go down. Oh, this is just the one report. Okay, gotcha. Guess I should have loaded them all up before I got here. Where'd it go? Projection report. Here. Sorry for the, we need some music in the background here. Usually I'm sitting up there. So we're looking at the projection report for the month ended October 30th. This is the extrapolation of how we expect to finish the year March 31st, 2020. This is the second projection report for this year. You can read the document at your leisure, but I will give you a snapshot as to what the changes are between last month and this month. So in the second projection report, revenue is increased this month from $14,100 from my report last month. The total increase over budget of revenue is projected to be $3,900. Last year we were looking at a reduction in revenue. This month we're looking at an increase in revenue. This is where the increase came from. The taxes, we're looking at losing a little bit of income. $1,700 is being lost in curb frontage because of property sales. Own source revenue is up $4,300, and this relates to the rentals of parking spaces in the town of Kentville. Conditional transfers were up $11,500 from last month. The federal government has forwarded $700 in addition to Canada Summer Jobs. That was a claim made by Recreation for some of their summer students. And the province of Nova Scotia has forwarded $10,500 from the Department of Communities for various recreation programs. As well, there's a little bit of an extra money that came in this month from Tyans of $300. So we're looking at a projected increase in revenue this month of $14,100, and the total projected increase in revenue for the year, we're looking at being over budget March 31st, 2020, $3,900. On the expenditure side of the ledger, expenditures are increased $25,000 in this second projection report. The total increase over budget in expenditures at the end of the year is projected to be $74,900. General administration is projecting an additional $2,800 in office expense, and this relates to the advertising costs for the CAO search. Under protection EMO other, we are up $8,600 from my last report, and this relates to August 30th and September 7th storms, wages and materials and supplies. Transportation is up $10,300. Common services is up $10,300. And office expenses due to some legal costs. Environmental health is up $1,300. Valley Waste forwarded and updated funding requirements for the town of Kentville. Our share has increased very slightly, but this was sent to us just the week I printed this report for you. Environmental development, $7,500. Planning office, legal has moved upwards $5,000, and shade trees has moved up $2,500 due to the fact that
the summer storms caused havoc with many trees that the town owns. On recreation, we're down $5,500. The administrative section is showing savings of $2,000 in legal fees, and programs are down $2,000 in pool. Cultural is down $1,500. Uncommon Common Art returned their grant. They have shut down their operation. So all in, projected increase in expenditures just for this month, $25,000. Overall, we're looking at expenditures at the end of March being over budget, $74,900. At this point in time, we're looking at a deficit position, March 31st, 2020, of $71,000, and that's my report.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Deb, I'm just wondering, the 31,000 in reduction in taxes from successful appeals,
Yes.
is that unusually high?
No.
If my math is correct, 31,000 is $1 million in commercial or $2 million in residential.
Yes.
In a reduction in, I find it amazing.
There are many people in the town who appeal their assessments. It didn't used to be that in the past, but people are looking at their assessment notices and they're comparing it to their neighbors or to like homes and whatnot, and they are making appeals, and they're being successful in their appeals. So
Is PBSC, to me, if they're making successful appeals, something's not being done right through PBSC if they're over-assessing properties?
I think PVSC uses a model, like a computer model, to do their assessments on the properties. So it may over-assess.
They just put it into a machine and it spits out a number.
Yeah, basically it spits it out, sort of
Okay.
thing. So it may be that, you know, people are successful anyway when they go to the assessment court and get the reduction in assessments.
Okay. And the second question I had was in regards to, I think, the library, where the county didn't, was that expected? Did we expect them not to pay as much, or is it a set?
It was the $300 less that the revenue. Are you talking about the revenue side?
Yes, the contribution from, I don't know whether it was, all I see is it was a slight decrease in the actual library contribution
Yes.
by the county.
And that was just a mathematical calculation. When the budget was struck, it was calculated based on percentage of CPI, and CPI was slightly less than
So
what.
they aren't,
No,
just with-
no,
okay.
they're paying
No.
what the bill is.
okay, thank you.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Your Worship. Director Kroll, under the general and admin, where it says remuneration will exceed budget by 29,500 due to changes, was that more and then there was additional that came from reserves, or was it an overall budget exceeding budget by just that amount, the 29.5?
The expenditures that have gone through that account, or will go through that account, or are projected to go through that account, it will, at the end of the year, we're going to be exceeding budget, and this is because of the change in the complement in the administrative department.
Yes.
And the necessary payouts that are required.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, it's overall that, like it's, does that make sense what I'm asking? I don't think I'm saying it right. It's not just the 32.9 because of monies were taken from surplus.
There's
No.
nothing being taken from reserve in this whole scenario. This is all just what we've gotten in the operating fund and what we've paid out.
Okay. I thought it would be more than that under general and admin, but it's not, so that's great.
Well, there was a period of time we were without a person at a
Yep.
certain, that kind of thing. So.
Sure, exactly. I had a question about, sorry, had it right there, environmental. Sorry, just give me 1 second. Under EMO, the 58,000 over budget, are we expecting that to be any more than that?
I can't say. I'm hoping that that's the end of it, but there could be some late invoices. I know some of the invoices related to some of the contractors who were involved in some of the cleanups and whatnot have been slow coming in, so I can't guarantee that that's the end of it.
Okay,
There might be some lagging invoices
trickle
that
in.
haven't been recorded yet.
okay, all right, thank you, thanks.
Councillor Bolland?
Thank you, Worship. Deborah, on that note on Hurricane Dorian, are there any offsetting funds coming from Ottawa to,
Not that we know of now, no.
are there applications have gone in, or were they not
We have
available?
submitted to EMO Nova Scotia basically a summary total of what the town's losses were, and we've heard nothing back. So they are hopeful that something will happen, but it's not a guarantee, and we haven't been notified of anything.
We may have an answer in the gallery.
Dan, do you have an
Well,
update?
if I may, the only update is that from provincial side, the application went to Disaster Financial Assistance Federal Program. The program typically may not get announced for another 4 to 6 weeks. When it gets announced, one adjudicator for all the municipalities will go municipality to municipality for uninsured costs. So it's uninsured costs that they look at. So they'll sit down, the adjudicator will come to each of the municipalities, sit down with the engineering and finance departments and go through all of those costs.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Maxwell?
No, Councillor Bolland asked my question.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? No? All right, moving on to your next report on the External Audit Services proposal, please.
Yes, thank you very much. I sent a report upstairs to CAO Race late last week regarding the External Audit Services proposal for the 5-year period 2020 to 2025. The term for the present services proposal was expired on March 31st, 2019. So we sent out a request for proposal, external audit services, and it was placed on the provincial procurement website and the town's website on September the 25th, 2019, with the submission date of October 23rd, 2019. 5 audit firms expressed interest in the RFP, and on October 23rd, I received 1 qualifying response. The submission was opened publicly on October the 23rd at 3:15 by myself and the town's accountant, Robin Page. The submitter did not attend. The following audit firms submitted a proposal for consideration. This is Kent and Duffett, and they are the incumbent, and they responded to all required aspects of the request for proposal. Under pricing over the 5-year term, and this is compared to the final year of the last contract, is in a chart at the top of page 2. You can see that 1819, our last proposal, we're looking at total fees for the town and the water utility at $18,000. They have reduced the 1920 by 1.7% to $17,700, and you can see the remaining years of the proposal increases it by basically a cost of living of 2%. There's no extra charge for the internal controls letter or for any auditing services that required by upper levels of government related to BCF or MRIF funding or other agreements such as that. Kenton Duffett is a registered municipal auditor with the province of Nova Scotia, and both Mr. Duffett and Mr. Force are deeply rooted within the firm and the community. They are aware that continuity of key engagement people is very important to the town, and it will take every practical step to ensure that continuity. We have a very rigid audit schedule in our RFP that ensures that our audited statements are fully complete by the end of June each year. Kenton Duffett acknowledges and agrees to the town's audit schedule and related milestones. Kenton Duffett is very well versed in the public sector accounting standards. The audit team and the Town of Kentville experience. The audit team will consist of 3 members. Mr. Force will be the engagement partner. Mr. Duffett will serve as the team senior, and finally Ms. Hill will assist as part of the audit team. Familiarity with the town, its functions, and its financial processes is a benefit to us all because it eliminates the time required to acquaint a new auditor with our financial practices. All team members are familiar with the Town of Kentville audit. There's continuity in the audit staff. This is very important because it translates into efficiencies. Kenton Duffett is confident that the town will not be introduced to new key audit personnel within the 5-year term. The estimated audit hours, they expect the audit should take a range of 150 to 200 hours to complete with audit planning and risk analysis, totaling somewhere between 50 and 75 hours. Audit execution, 75 to 100 hours, with final evidence gathering, reporting, and quality control procedures totaling around 25 hours. They offer as well ancillary services, which are non-audit services related to advisory services and many varied topics, such as general consulting, grant applications, HST instruction, accounting assistance, to name a few. Because the consulting falls outside the scope of the external audit proposal, fee estimates would be discussed before any ancillary work is completed. So I have a recommendation for CAC based on the above noted analysis. I recommend to Council Advisory Committee that Kenton Duffett, the incumbent, be retained for external auditing services for the 5-year period from April 1, 2019 to March 31st, 2024. Annual reappointment will be contingent on Council satisfaction with performance and fees, among other things. Fees for each year are as follows, and they range from, I won't read all those, you can see them there, from 2020, $17,700 plus HST to, at the end of the proposal, $19,100 plus HST. And further, I recommend that this matter be placed before Town Council for ratification.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that Council Advisory recommend that Kenton Duffett be retained for external auditing services for a 5-year period from April 1st, 2019 to March 31st, 2024. Annual reappointment will be contingent on Council's satisfaction with performance and fees, among other things. Fees for each year are as follows. From 2020 at $17,700 plus HST to the end of 2024 at $19,100 plus HST for ratification at the 25th of November council meeting. And discussion. Councillor Savage.
Just a question, a point of clarification, Your Worship. Where our term does not go beyond October 2020, are we able to commit for the ensuing 5 years? We are? Okay.
Contractually, yes.
Perfect.
This
Okay.
is not contingent on us, or
Okay.
this is a service that is required
Yes, okay.
by law.
All right, thanks for the clarification.
Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, I just have a couple of questions, and I'm very happy with Kenton Duffett. I think they're a good organization, so on, but I just want to ask a few questions. What goes out in the RFP as the criteria for this? Because I'm wondering why 4 accounting firms would apply if they don't meet any of the criteria, if these things listed here are criteria.
The 4 accounting firms actually asked for the RFP but didn't respond.
Oh, they didn't respond at
No.
all?
No, and it may be that they didn't have staff, or they couldn't meet the timelines of our audit, that kind of thing. So they were sent out to the people who contacted me,
Okay.
but they did not submit a proposal.
Okay, so would these things that are listed here, local representation, ability to meet the schedule, public sector accounting standards, would town of Kentville experience, continuity of adults, are those the criteria in the RFP?
Yes, they are.
They are. Okay, thank you very much.
Is there any further discussion? All right. We have a recommendation that Council Advisory recommend that Kenton Duffett be retained for external auditing services for the 5-year period from April 1st, 2019 to March 31st, 2024. Annual reappointment will be contingent on Council's satisfaction with performance and fees, among other things. Fees for each year are as follows. So the year ending March 31st, 2020 will be $17,700 plus HST, and the year ending March 31st, 2024 is $19,100 plus HST for ratification at the 25th of November council meeting. And voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Director Kroll.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to Planning and Development. Director Gentleman, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. For the month of October, 10 development permits were issued. That was a building valuation of $289,000, just over $289,000 for a year total to date of $19,000,000. $66,974 in building valuation. We've had a couple of subdivision applications processed, no dangerous or unsightly premises complaints, one zoning certificate, and the final 3 special events permits on the Healy property were concluded, were done. So that's the end of that. Those special events on that property for the year, and no vending permits were issued. Glooscap Curling Club, they have finally submitted their draft survey plan identifying the area of land that they wish to acquire at the end of Crescent Avenue, so that they can move ahead with some of the construction that they want to do. There's still some work that needs to be done with the survey, and we are working with them on getting some issues clarified. The former KCA lands, engineering and planning have been working with the with KCA's and Encore's engineers. There were a few issues that needed to be addressed, and I believe from as of last week, those have been addressed. So we had anticipated we might see some construction on the property by this time, but I think due to the time of year, it may be next fall or next spring before we see anything happening there. But everything's been approved, so that is a good thing. Green Parsons Development, as you know, that's moving ahead well. They've got two buildings up there, and I think there's, well, my understanding that they're hoping to have the 3rd and 4th footing in the spring as well. Staff had been working with the River Street landowners to acquire land for an easement to build a dike and a wall for flooding purposes. And I think perhaps engineering has a little more information on that, but that project doesn't seem to be moving ahead as a result of not having full buy-in from all the property owners. And last week, an application from Open Arms had been submitted to rezone a portion of their property. They have a split zone on their property, but to rezone the R1 portion to R2 of that split property. But it's my understanding today that that application has been withdrawn. And if that has changed, I haven't heard otherwise. So other than that, that's just day-to-day communications with the public, and that's my report.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Bev, thanks for your report. I'm wondering why residents are not buying into the River Street wall, like the sign-offs for the River Street wall. I'm wondering what communication methods have been used to communicate to those people, because it just doesn't make sense to me that they wouldn't want to protect their property from potential floodwaters. So I'm just wondering.
Well, I asked the same question as well. We really don't know, but obviously it was a benefit to them to have this project done and completed. But there are a number of letters that went out. We started the communication with them last year. And several letters were sent out this year. There were phone calls, there were meetings. Pardon?
2 meetings.
2 meetings, emails. So, you know, there were a number. There wasn't a full buy-in. I mean, you can't build half of a dike or a wall and with a gap in the middle with certain property owners who just weren't interested in it. So.
I'm wondering if a knock on the door would be.
Oh, there were knocks on the door. There were knocks on the door. There were face-to-face meetings. There were emails. They
all came to the meeting.
Yep.
First meeting.
Okay.
Full attendance.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Bev, where are we with the development agreement on Park Street?
Development agreement.
The Allen's Motel, didn't we do that through development
Oh,
agreement?
that's been done and approved.
Did we do on-site visits?
Did we do on-site visits? We did at the very beginning, but, you know, everything that was part of the DA has been in compliance. That we haven't been seen anything otherwise.
You haven't seen anything
Well-
otherwise?
Anything that would be outside of the DA.
Okay, but have you, did we do a visit when they were finished? And
We did
Before we did
through
an
building
occupancy
inspection,
permit.
because most of it was really the building, right? And we ended up having to go through a development agreement process because the buildings were non-conforming. So,
it wasn't
So,
internal structures that
it
we,
right.
we, did. Okay,
So, and,
All right.
and that was all done through our building officials.
okay, thank you.
Counselor Bolland?
Thank you, Worship. Director Kroll, going back to River Street, I'm able to direct the questions yourself and Director Bell. Was there a key issue with not getting the buy-in from people in River Street? I mean, is it financial? Is there a hurdle that we can overcome, or is there a common denominator, or?
There's not a common denominator.
At all, no.
There's not a common denominator. It just, it's not.
We don't know.
We don't know
We
why.
don't know why. It
But
was
at
obviously.
the end of the day, it's not a project that the town needs, that it was a project afforded for these, protection of these properties. It doesn't, it's not for the purpose of the town's protection. But, anyway, we've tried 6 ways to Sunday, and we just cannot get buy-in from all 6
What
home
w-
property owners to allow us on the property to build the wall.
Is there a financial ask of the residents to be part of this? No, so I'm just, it puzzles me, as it probably does you, certainly.
We've tried all we can do, but the window to build, as I mentioned before, is closing because it's a cement wall. I'm probably speaking in, when the engineer should be speaking, but guess I'm used to that. Anyway, it's, the window is getting narrow, and I believe we're going to pull the plug on that project very quickly. The money will disappear, but at the end of the day, it saves the town $87,000 that we can use capital-wise elsewhere to do some good that we might find a need for some project, other project.
And I assume, just for future, that you have the names of the yeses and the nos, as far as,
Yes, we do, yes.
okay.
They've actually signed, the ones that signed, yes, also signed letters of permission to enter their property. It started out as a dike extension where the dike ends now behind East Griffin's, and then the last property is the Cans on River Street. That's where the dike terminates. So the original plan was to extend the dike in a narrower but the same height, but a less wide dike, but as the same protection. But it's gonna take a lot of their property behind their homes and buildings and businesses. So we sort of revisited the dike scenario with a concrete wall. Take up, a fraction of the space, and they all seemed to like that idea, but still couldn't come to the, bring in the signed paperwork to say that we can proceed. And we told them that the window was really November 1st when we were telling them to pull the sort of drop dead date because the money has to be spent this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Savage?
Thank you, Worship. Bless you. Not you, but you. Just a quick question around Encore. So it's looking like they'll probably start in the spring of 2020.
We hope so.
Hopefully, is that like when do they actually have to have their footings in based on our agreement with them? Is it on or around that time?
We don't have, I don't think we do have an agreement with them in terms of when the footings have to be in. I haven't seen it. There may be.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, my unless I'm wrong, I think that's my understanding is that's part of the agreement that when they purchase the land. Sorry?
I think there's usually a 2-year window.
Is it? Okay, I didn't know if it was.
I was not part of that whole
Yeah.
purchase,
Okay.
so I
Yeah.
can't really speak on it.
But they were just granted final approval, earlier this month, so.
Right.
Final engineering approval was just granted, so does that start 2 years from purchase or 2 years from getting the go-ahead? I don't know.
Yeah, I think
what
it's
the
usually
timeline is.
2 years from purchase.
Purchase?
2 years from purchase.
2 years. I can't speak to the time frame, but it was definitely from purchase, and perhaps the new CAO is frantically making notes, so I'm sure she's going to check on that.
Yeah, yeah. But thank you. That's all I had.
Councillor Pulsifer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Bev, the Parsons Green development, is it anticipated that 4 buildings will be constructed on that
Yes,
piece
they've
of
been
land?
approved for 4.
Has been approved for 4. And they're going to be, they plan to build all 4, consecutively at the same, they'll be all done, ready to open all 4 of them at the same time.
Well, I think they'll have the first 2 open before
Mhm.
completion of the other 2.
Right, okay. Are there any plans for, from the, the developer for what they will look like, or?
Yeah, we have the architectural plans.
You do?
We
Okay.
do. I think that they were provided to council when the permit was issued. I can resend them out.
You mean department sizes and
Mhm.
how they're set up? Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Just for my own clarity, the River Street, this is not only going to affect the wall, but it's also going to affect I call it a boardwalk, whatever you want to call it, but sort of an extension of a trail.
In the back of those properties?
Yes.
No, there wasn't really going to be no.
Wasn't the intention,
No.
at least not to my knowledge, in recent.
So
in this
there
year,
was never going to be a boardwalk or a trail going?
No, most of the residents didn't want it.
It was not going back there, it was more strictly for hot water protection, not for pedestrian use or.
Right.
Okay.
We never would have got I think anybody to sign for that.
Yeah.
Right.
For permission, it was.
No, it's just
permission long.
flood proofing, that's all.
And in regards to the Parsons Green, are they going to be over, I was reading through last week or a couple weeks ago, the numbers on zoning, and I think in the R4, if they go over, they're allowed to go over by a certain percentage, but a certain percentage of those have to be affordable housing. Will they be over their allotted?
No, they're not gonna be over their allotted. There was some discussion with them that if they wanted additional units, they could do so by providing a portion of those as affordable housing.
Yep. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Are there any further questions? All right, Director, thank you very much. Community and Economic Development?
Do I need to do something on here? I will just read my report. Good evening, Your Worship, Council. Our fall marketing campaigns have wrapped up, and we've transitioned now into our holiday messaging, so you'll start to see that online, on the radio, and in print. We are again running the It Feels Like Christmas campaign with MBS Radio, and we're also hopefully partnering with KBC to further the promotional mentions about shopping in downtown and the Winter Wonderland contest. This year's campaign will have a wider reach and impact because of this partnership, and we hope that it will result in more holiday traffic for Kentville. Under projects and beautification, the corn stalks are down, and installation of holiday lighting will begin on or just before the 18th of November when someone is back from Aruba. Not supposed to say Aruba. The holiday beautification efforts will again be complemented by KBC's Holly Jolly decorating campaign. Businesses participating in that campaign will have their storefronts fully decorated by November 22nd, which of course coincides with our Torchlight event. The Kentville Business Park Working Group is delivering a new campaign as well in the business park this year called Light Up the Park. Businesses in the business park will be encouraged to decorate using lights, and the town will help jointly promote the park as an area for visitors to drive through and check out over the holiday season. The town is planning to supplement the efforts of the park businesses by adding some decor and lighting to the business park entrance at Roscoe Drive. The campaign was created as a way to increase awareness of the businesses that are currently calling the park home and also showcase the business park in a way that may entice future development. People will be able to vote for their favorite display by going online after they've driven around and checked them all out. The downtown signage project is still in the design phase. Hopefully I will have some progress to report on that next month. Basically I just failed to nag the company for an update before this report. Under tourism and events, the Devour Kentville Sip and Savor was a big success again this year. It was in a new location over at the Main Street Station. Participation was up from last year as the venue was larger, so we were able to sell more tickets. The KBC Devour Committee hasn't received final numbers from Devour, but we definitely scanned over 230 tickets at the entrance. The committee plans to work with Devour again next year and make a few modifications to improve on the event even further. We're very excited about this partnership. The season end report for the Visitor Information Center will be presented to you at the November CAC. We're waiting for a couple of stats to be finalized. Under other, the KBC first video in the series that they're producing as a special project has been released, and it's been very, very well received. People are sharing it, liking it, commenting it, which is obviously the point. The committee is now working on the second video, which will be more of a holiday focus, and will really try to drive people downtown to Campbell to shop local and experience the awesome shops and eateries that we have downtown. That is hopefully going to be released the first week in December. We know how these types of projects go, so, don't hold me to it. The AVCC Business Awards were on Thursday last week, and 13 of the nominees were Kempville businesses. I'm happy to report that 3 of those turned into big winners with trophies. It was Skylit Energy, formerly known as Nova Solar Capital Corp. The Maritime Express Cider Company was Best New Business of the Year, which is super fantastic honor. And the third one, oh my gosh, just went right out of my brain because Jeff's staring at me. Oh my gosh, I'm terrible. It's Eason's Transport. Oh my goodness. And I was very excited to tell you about this one. They won a new award that's new this year for equity and inclusion advancement in the workplace. So I know they were very excited to win that, and I think it was well deserved based on all of the speeches and everything. So congratulations to all of the nominees and those 3 businesses as well. I've also recorded my meetings and events for you below, and that is my report.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Lindsay. And I know the Easons that won that award, that was actually an award that came through the Diversity Kings, which I sit on
cool.
behalf of council. That was an award that we came up with. And so I'm really happy to hear that somebody so worthy won it. And I'm always interested in what's happening with training and all that good stuff. So I know that you were in Chattanooga.
I was in Chattanooga, not Chattahoochee.
Not a Chattahoochee.
There was a lot of confusion about where I went.
So just, can you take like 2 minutes and just tell us a little bit about it?
Oh,
like
absolutely. I think we're having a little lunch and learn here at some point with staff to like show pictures and go over some of the sessions that I was able to attend. But you're right. I was very fortunate to be able to attend the International Placemaking Week, which is, it was absolutely amazing. I went to Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was there for 5 days of programming. It was absolutely wonderful, and we were all there learning how to make great public spaces that are welcoming and inclusive for all people. And the best part about the conference was that it was a conference without walls. So every session was held in a different public space across the city. So there was no like, oh, we're going to the conference hotel and we're sitting in a room. We were actually able to get real hands-on experience and hear from people who had created these spaces. And the whole theme of the conference was equity and inclusion, and I think they did a really wonderful job of making sure that presenters were telling us all of the problems that they faced as they were trying to create these projects and execute these projects, because it's okay to go to a conference and hear about how somebody had a really sunshiny rainbow experience starting up a public pavilion, but typically we all know that there was probably a lot of hurdles that they had to get over in order to unveil that, sunshiny project. So it was really valuable for me to hear what some of those barriers were for everybody and how those folks overcame them in order to create these spaces. And I found it very valuable. Absolutely. Awesome. I'd be happy to tell you all more about it if you're interested in coming to the lunch and learn.
Great. Thanks, Lindsay.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. That's great.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. You mentioned Devour, Lindsay, and I was talking to Miss Robinson about and I just wanted to say, and I know it's not necessarily a Kentville thing, but the pumpkin walk.
Oh yeah, that was disappointing.
It was disappointing, and if there's anything we can do in future to facilitate, and I know it was unavoidable this year, but
this year we kind of ran out of runway to get kind of some problems solved, but we absolutely anticipate this event coming back again next year. I actually will meet with Miss Robinson tomorrow on an unrelated matter, but we've been talking about maybe starting up a little bit of a community committee, because it is an extensive amount of work for those students, and depending on their class size, which this year is very small, it's a lot of pumpkin carving for 12 people, or the 8 that really show up to do it, you know what I mean? And after your first pumpkin, I don't know if you're like me, I'm done with this, but they're doing 300, so it's very exhausting for them. And we did find out when we announced that there wasn't going to be a pumpkin walk, we knew that the community really cared about it already. But we had people putting their hand up and saying, is there anything I can do? How can I help? So we'll try to harness some of that energy for next year and see if we can get it going again.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Pulsifer.
Thank you. Lindsay, you mentioned in your report the downtown signage project is still in the design phase. So what is the downtown signage project consisting of?
I have mentioned that a couple of times. It'll be, some of the signage will be specific to Center Square, some will be specific to the public garden project, but it needs to be branded in a way that makes sense for both of those public spaces. So, you know, signage including rules and regulations of using the spaces, hours of operation, those types of things. We're just looking at the whole thing as one project versus kind of piecemeal signing different areas, and kind of can look a little bit less cohesive. So,
Okay.
does
What,
that
what
help?
about the wayfinding maps that are around downtown? Are they going to be renewed and with correct information on them?
Okay, so are
Because-
you talking about the illustrated maps that are in the
Ye-
kiosks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there is one over on Station Lane that is outdated. It has the VIC or tourist
Okay.
information
Okay.
indicated at the Heritage Center, the old VIC station building. So we have had people coming to us, or to the Historical Society rather, looking for tourist information because they see it on the sign that's out there on that map.
Okay, so there's a twofold explanation for that. One is that we started up the kiosks, and then KBC, which at the time was still the Merchants Group, was taking over the management of updating the business listings. That hasn't happened this year. I'm not sure, but I can put it to the Downtown Promotions and Events Committee and see if they're planning to do something with that again.
Yeah, just.
As a side note, I did recently meet with the artist that created that map because we do need the actual physical landscape of the town updated because things have happened.
Yes.
That
yes.
edge building is gone and the bridge is
Yes.
going to be new and people built stuff over by Shanix.
A lot
You know,
of
so we have
updates.
to update that.
Yes, definitely.
So he's working on that now. I'm doing the data collection for that update. It may
Okay.
take months. It's a very slow process. So just so you know. And then the second part of that is we're having him also create a very similar style map for the business park. I didn't say that yet, but I will tell you about it when we get closer to having some actual data to show you with that. But yes, can be updated, and I will look into it right away.
Okay. Well, before next summer, maybe. or
Sure.
whatever. Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions? All right, all good. Thank you,
Thank you.
Lindsay. Director Bedingfield, Parks and Recreation.
I see Jen out of the corner of my eye, trying to beat her. Good evening. Good evening, Council. Great to see you. For our report tonight, under facilities, the Kentville Centennial Arena is in full operation. As always, a complete list of happenings can be found on our website. We actually have a number of free skates. Often people think that we only have one free skate a week. We actually have close to 9 free skates a week and access to the community, so please keep an eye on that. And always you can book and see all the schedules online. Our park facilities have been shut down for the winter. This means that the water's been shut off and drained to prevent any pipes bursting over the colder months. I did see that we have, I think, 2 tennis nets because we're ever hopeful that every now and then spring pops its head and then winter, it's a little bit of we're emotional down there, but we're going to eventually take those nets down as well. We're continuing to complete repair work at Miners Marsh, and this also means keeping up with the muskrats that continue to dig holes in the trail. We've talked about a number of things. Ultimately, nature seems to win. Eventually, we might just put up a webcam because that seems to be really exciting for people to see what's going on down there. Our park staff were also busy this month building, placing and maintaining the pumpkin people that you saw around and renovating the visitor information center. Both of these projects fall under community economic development, but with support from our park staff. Under programs in operation, the free walking and talk times have started at the Credit Union Rec Center. Again, this year we're offering it Monday to Friday. And we actually started earlier this year. There was such a demand in the community for us to get going on that. We started it a couple weeks early. This year, if you remember, we piloted a forest school. It's completed its 8-week session. It was, we had a waiting list. It was very successful, so we're going to reevaluate it and see if folks are interested in running it again in the spring. Again, this was for preschool agers, trying to prepare them for big kids school, but doing so out in nature so that they have access to those skills moving forward. You may have seen her popping around. If you haven't already, I encourage you to come and introduce yourself to Lydia Broderick, who's our new Active Living Community Coordinator. Not in my report, but I think important, Julia had her baby, so that's exciting. Indoor pickleball has begun at KCA school. This program serves over 70 adults in our community and offers opportunities for beginners to advanced. There's co-ed and single-sex opportunities as well, including competitive, which I challenge you. They're very competitive. Our community yoga program has begun, and this is one of the fundraisers that we have for our Spike program. So all the net profit from this goes towards the Spike Fund. You'll see us have these events throughout the year. If you remember, we had the mermaids this past summer. All profits from that went to the Spike Fund. So there's a lot of these opportunities that we're continuing to use to build up that Spike Fund to support folks in our community have access to recreation. Our recreation center usage has increased thanks to a solid effort from our communications and resource coordinator, that's Ashley. This facility is filled with our own program offerings, but also community members who rent the facility from us. Currently, the Recreation Center hosts programs such as rug hooking, kickboxing, Zumba, belly dancing, a whole slew of things. Really what we're trying to do is build capacity. Sometimes folks come in and tell us they have this skill and they want to offer it to the community. Sometimes people want to rent the space from us. And sometimes we just identify gaps and do our best to try and fill them for our community. Under our capital update, Memorial Park Playground, you may have seen our park folks working down there. Part of this, you'll also see that the feature of this playground has turned into this huge oak tree that Kate generously donated. Thanks. There you go. Yeah, that's right. That Dorian blew down on Oakteen Ave. This, of course, is a town tree. We're just moving it over. We're nearing completion, and we're really excited to be able to open this. It will be finished in the spring. We've stopped work on it this year, but this playground renovation is a long time coming. We're really excited to be able to offer it to the community. And then moving on, and we're not sure now that the weather has shifted if we're able to do this or not, but the next project would be to complete the gazebo, offer a shade shelter for folks at Oakteen Park. So if that isn't able to get completed this fall, then we'll be moving that to this spring. So it's all weather dependent. Under public engagement and community events, we're very fortunate with the weather. For those of you that were able to attend Harvest Fest this year, it drew record crowds. We were so excited to see everybody. We were able to book 2 musicians this year, Donna and Andy and Ida Red, who were able to stomp us home. This great talent, along with the fantastic community support from some of our partnering organizations, Kenfield Girl Guides, Kings County Family Resource Center, Community Inc., they really created that hometown feel, and we are very purposeful about ensuring that our community organizations have the ability to get their heads out there so people know that they exist. I want to thank Ashley again and our facility manager, Kevin Benefit, and our park staff who helped ensure that everything ran smoothly and safely. Our partner meeting, this is our community partner meeting, was held on October 29th. If you remember, we held this event last year. This is an annual gathering. It's an opportunity for us to bring together key stakeholders in our community to check in on what's working and what could be improved with regards to access to parks and recreation in the town of Kentville. All of this falls under our evaluation criteria for the Recreation for All policy that help guides our department. And this year, because it's our second year, we were able to give folks an update as to what has been done since our last meeting with them. So a few of the highlights that we talked about was accessibility information for each community event. So you'll notice that, for example, the Torchlight event is coming up. So that event is hosted, and in there is also a whole page of information around accessibility to ensure that people know what to expect when they're there. So that template's been something that we worked on. Of course, the new website where programs can be filtered by cost, age group, season. We've had a group of people that have been working really hard on that, and that's now up and running. The Municipal Active Transportation Plan with a focus on equity, that's going to guide our work. That was some of the information that we received from that group last year was used towards that RFP and thus filtered through to the plan. We've been working with the library board, expanding the equipment library, so including long games. There's two things here. Expanding the equipment library that we have. So we have lawn games, a lot of sedentary games, binoculars, and new triads, including Spring Outside and Learn to Camp programs. Also working with the Annapolis Valley Regional Library to work to get beyond those bikes that you can rent out or borrow out through library. Now we're working to get accessible bikes and accessible features so that folks with mobility issues have access to that as well. And then development of target communication and county-wide conversation around improving communication as a region. So you may have seen this in the regional rec guide that goes out. Kentville wasn't present because we've pulled back from it to be a lot more purposeful. And the next rec guide that comes out, we will be a part of it, but it's going to be quite pared down. We've been working with our partners regionally to make sure that the monies that we put towards communication is very targeted. So you'll be shocked to know that adults and seniors like to get their information in different ways than youth. I know you're shocked. So we've essentially just caught up to what's going on and ensuring that children and families and their parents have different ways that they have access to information. So that looks like everything from flyers that go home in the water bill to information that goes home in kids' backpacks at school to paying for ads on Instagram. We're making sure that the relevant information is reaching the specific person and the specific target group. This also means that we are being very purposeful when we're looking at targeting persons with a disability, for example. Any specific accessibility information is going out to various community groups like L'Arche or Evergreen or King's Family Resource Center, things like that. So you'll see more and more information that's coming out that way. And again, this is a result of our needs assessment. Meetings and events. So it was the month for conferences. Lindsay was in Chattanooga. And I was, we struggle to say it without doing it like that. I was really fortunate enough to be able to attend the National Parks Conference in Quebec, in part because I received funding because I sit on the National Parks Task Group for the Canadian Parks and Recreation Association, and in part because it's just a really important place to go. We were really fortunate to hear from the lead scientist with National Geographic and who talked about the Canadian and global efforts to protect 30% of our planet by 2030. One of the key pieces that came out from this talk was that our government's going to be looking not just to provincial lands but also municipal lands to go towards that target, which is going to be really cool if we're able to say Miners Marsh is actually helping our global efforts for conservation, especially as this council targets environmental champions is one of your priorities. So we're keeping an eye on that. Sheila Watt-Cloutier, who was, she was actually nominated for a Nobel Peace Award, Peace Prize. She talked about how the survival of our Indigenous people is directly related to the survival of our environment. And really, if we're going to move forward on this, we need to ensure that our efforts are Indigenous-led because they are so connected to the land. And we talked a lot about the Parks for All strategy, which is this attached to here? Yeah. So you'll see attached to my report, there's a bit of a breakdown here as to all of the highlights that came out of that conference, and I'll let you read that, including, the Parks for All strategy, which is found down here. And this is something that at our recent conference with Recreation Nova Scotia, we put forward a resolution for our membership to adopt this and follow it. At the Recreation Nova Scotia conference, myself and Ashley and Kevin attended that. Kevin actually spoke on a panel around gender equity. I'll let that settle in for a second. He did a great job. I'm really proud of him. I was fortunate enough to run 3 sessions. One was on the Recreation for All policy that I spoke of earlier. I was one of 3 panelists that talked about some of the things that we're doing for that work. I also led a session on inclusion and access for the provincial strategy that I'm a member of. And then the last piece, which those slides are also attached to this presentation, was around designing a recreation access and provisions to ensure that that low-income families can participate. So this was a really interesting session. We've partnered with a researcher from UNB, who focuses on leisure education and poverty. And it's really just kind of taking a look at if we design recreation as a social construct versus efficient systems, then we're just going to be a lot more inclusive. So I leave those for your perusal if you want to geek out like I do. The last part of my report here is just to let you know that on November 17th, we're going to be having our 3rd annual Kentville Plays event. So if you remember, this event happens at the Fire Hall. It's a big party. Come and play, and it's really to celebrate the launch of our Kentville Plays initiative, where we decided we wanted to have a goal to become Canada's most playful community. And it's also a chance for us to talk about all the great things that we've done, much like a partner gathering, but to ensure that our community has access to the benefits of play and active play and creative play and all those different things. This is our 2nd year partnering with the Acadia Community Development Program, and so those students are going to be running it. And it's also going to be the first time that we introduce our portable play box officially to the community. So those yellow play boxes that you see in our parks, those are sedentary, and they're there for people to use. Our portable play box we're actually able to take to events, and eventually we're going to create it so that communities can actually borrow that as part of our equipment loan program, and they can have really cool block parties and get their neighbors out and celebrate it. The other thing to be aware of is that our Torchlight celebration is taking place on November 22nd at 6 p.m. We're not going to have a parade this year, but we are going to close down the streets between Church and Cornwallis, where we have the big tree lighting of our big tree by the clock, and Santa's workshop will be there. There's cookie decorating, hot apple cider, candy canes. I've heard elves are going to show up from center stage. There's going to be carolers. There's going to be a whole bunch of great stuff. And then, of course, we also have our annual free skate from 7 to 8 p.m. with free hot chocolate. And that's my report. I'm like sweating.
That was more information than we needed. Just putting that out there for you. Councillor Andrew, please.
Hi, Rachel. I just have a question about, and I feel like I always bring this up, but on the corner of Klondike, the trail, it appeared, and some people were very excited, it appeared that something was happening there around construction, and able to give any update and any whether any further thought or planning is around a safety feature for that part of the trail?
You mean because we started something and we stopped it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We like to tease people a little bit.
You sure did.
Pull them along. No, it turns out that property is actually privately owned. And that person does not want that structure there. So I've spoken with the property owner, and we have worked out an agreement. And so what we're going to do moving forward next year, pending council approval, is actually expand the width of the trail and put the rims up, much like the boardwalk, so that any wheels that are there, they are stopped from going over the edge. But it will not happen this year, and it will not be a fence.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. Rachel, I'm just wondering where things are at with the accessibility and advisory committee. Just we heard a little bit about that at NSFM in the town of Wolfville, and sort of where they're at with that, and just sort of wondering.
Yep.
Yeah.
So after you folks passed the motion that it was official committee of council, we put out a request for people to put in their applications.
Okay.
We received 2 applications. We need 7. So we started targeting folks. 4. We need 4. We have 4 now, right?
4.
So we are looking for a few more. There are specific requirements. So 50% of, so 4 people need to have a disability. However they identify that, they need to have a disability.
Okay.
So we've just been purposely targeting folks that we know in the community that may be of interest, which coincidentally, when you're working with underrepresented or minority populations, and that is how you recruit folks, you
Right.
actually need to go door to door and ask. So I would encourage anyone that is interested and has a passion for accessibility in our community, or has a
Right.
disability themselves and would like to offer their perspective, to please contact us and we'll give them an application. The purpose, the terms of reference, as you know, because you approved them for that committee, is to create the accessibility plan, the one that Woofle talks a lot about.
Right.
So we want to make sure that we do that the right way, and that's by engaging the right people from the beginning.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Hopefully folks will hear that and,
Yeah.
and spread the word.
We're chomping at the bit. We're excited to
Yes,
get
I'm
going.
sure. Thank you, Rachel.
Councillor Maxwell.
Yeah, no, Counselor Savage asked my question, so.
All right. Councillor Pulsipher.
Councillor Savage also answered.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just wondering, and it actually came from Deb's report, but it sounds like good news. The programs were under budget or in the projections. The programs for swimming pool, day camp, and tennis were under budget. The Canada Cup went over. Are we doing things more efficiently, or?
Summer camps were under budget because we lost the staff halfway through that we didn't replace, but we also lowered our targets, our marks, our ratio. That's what I'm looking for. Swimming was on fire this year. As you know, I've reported that here because of the renovations. So under those programs, it's also all of the swimming passes and memberships and
So
stuff
the
like
ratio of usage to what it costs to run it?
that. It still costs us money.
No,
but just-
I'm not saying it, but I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
the ratio of the amount of pool passes that we sold.
Yeah, we exceeded our revenue targets for our pool. And tennis, I believe, broke even or was just a little bit under. So, you know, we're pretty much on par with everything.
And how much were we over on the Canada Cup?
I think a couple $1,000. Yeah, it wasn't very much at all.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Anything further? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Deputy Chief.
Jennifer, is there a report? I'm not sure what order. Go back here. Just want to show you what.
No, I didn't add that in because it just came
Okay,
in today.
all right, okay, sorry. All right. Chief Chiquetto sends her regrets tonight. She's able to be here, so she sent me on her behalf to read her report. Mayor Snow, members of council, the report is not up there, so I'll read it off to you here. The Kentville Police, we had auxiliary hours this year, this past month for October to be 108 plus hours. Our training hours were up at 336. Vehicle checks, we did 155. Warning tickets, we issued 38 warning tickets under the Motor Vehicle Act. Summary fence tickets, we were at 37. Foot patrols, we were at 92 and a half hours of foot patrols. Criminal code charges were at 11, and calls for service were at 310. We had a couple of members attend some training this past month. Sergeant McNeil attended a Canadian Police College in Ottawa, a senior police administrator's course. Sergeant Smith attended the same college for a major crime commander's course. Sergeant Pick attended EAP training in Halifax. And the Constable or Sergeant Pick and Robichaud attended Helping the Helpers conference in Antigonish, which has to do with mental health, PTSD, and first responders. And Constable McDonald, McPhee, and Andrews attended an auto theft seminar in Dartmouth. The Kentville Police Service completed all its firearms and CA training. This was an annual training that we had to do, so that's been all done. Some of the things that we participated in last month were the chief and the members were Remembrance Day events, PEC and CISNS conference in Annapolis Royal, domestic violence subcommittee meetings. The chief has attended the Nova Scotia Police Governance Board conference. That was our conference that we held here at the Old O, so there was a wrap-up meeting for that. And she also attended last month the Atlantic Women in Law Enforcement Conference in Newfoundland. In staffing, we've completed the hiring of 3 brand-new police officers. We hired Constable Devin White, Constable Sarah Robichaud, and Constable Erica Johnson. So they are now full-time members of the Kentville Police Service. Getting into calls for service, we responded to 6 alarms. There were 2 parking offenses issued by the Kentville Police Service. Mental health, we responded to 21 calls. Traffic-related offenses, there were 78 complaints of that. Suspicious persons, 25. Assistance to other agencies, we were at 32. Assistance to citizens, 11. Property crime complaints, we're at 17. Crimes against persons, we were at 20. There's been 1 drug charge issued for the October, 1 bylaw charged by the police service. Provincial statutes were at 41. There were no impaired drivers last month, and the traffic accidents we had 12. Special Constable Cunningham's report. There were 3 complaints of loitering. He assisted the police 13 different times. Well, I'm sorry, my mistake here. I'm reading it wrong here. Loitering, there were no complaints of loitering. Assisted police were 7. Tax inspections, he didn't do any last month. There were none to be done. No animal control complaints that he took care of. There were 2 smoking charges issued. Smoking warnings, there were 80 issued. Parking charges were 39. Parking warnings, there were 238. And that's the report that was completed by the chief.
All right.
If you have any questions, I'd do my best to answer any.
Thank you very much. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Your Worship. Provincial statutes.
That could be somebody charged with intoxication in a public place.
Okay.
Could be illegal possession of liquor.
Okay, so it's a all-encompassing.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just needed clarification around it.
Councillor Maxwell.
Just being a little bit proactive. I've had some discussions with the chief, and we've talked in police commission as well, about the value of having a human resources person attached to the police department. And not only just the police, but I think here at Town Hall would be useful as well. Would you agree with that statement? Or?
Yes, this has been a real challenging year for staffing for us. We've had a lot of people that have left us for one reason or the other, and we've had to do a recruitment. Then there's the challenge of what's the right of the employer, the right of the employee. I'm not an expert at this. I'm sure the chief has worked with that before, but again, I've heard her say before that she's not the expert in this as well.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, we've gotten some advice from CAO, previous CAO and Paymaster, that I think they've kind of picked up the slack with some of those duties and did the best they could to assist.
Right. I think the chief also mentioned to me, and maybe commission chair can answer that. There are other police departments that would be interested in cost sharing a human resources person. Have you heard that as well?
Yes, they were. That was one of the discussions the chief and I had with another local force, because they're experiencing the same thing. So I think, Councilor Maxwell, you'll find we've got another commission meeting this Friday. I think that will be sort of a bigger issue on our agenda.
Okay. I'm wondering if I can come out ahead of this and make a motion. That's possible. I'd like to make a motion that we ask the new CAO to investigate the potential hiring of a human resources person for the Kentville Police Department and Town Hall personnel, and further that we explore the possibility of cost sharing that position with another municipality. If we can put that on your desk, I would like to make that motion, and I believe that this is an important position that most other towns have, and it should be something that I think we should look at.
So you don't want to permit the police commission to have that discussion first and bring it through committee to council?
It just delays it further. I know that this is planning to come up, and, but, you know, if you want it to come through the police department, we can do that, but I also believe it's also opportune for town hall personnel also to have a human resources person attached.
Well,
it's not just police.
The CAO is in charge of staffing, so I think that the rec.
I'm hearing two different things.
Yeah.
The discussion that you had mentioned at the police conference was our police service and another police service sharing an HR. And I think what the motion was us, our police service, as well as town hall, as well as sharing. And I think, I would personally rather wait for what the chief comes back with at the commission level. And then if something else is started on a wider range by the CAO or by staff or something, we could weigh both of the options. But to me, it sounds very confused when you say us and another police service in town.
So the CAO is attending your police commission.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
you
Well,
can
I'll withdraw
direct-
that. I'll withdraw that motion then.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else for the deputy chief? All right, thank you very much.
And Chief Chiquetto will be at the commission meeting on Friday. Thank you.
All right, Director Bell, your very first report. No pressure. If you're feeling sweaty, you can talk to Director Bedingfield.
Sweaty Rachel. I guess that's not. So yeah, it's been 4 weeks today since I started. It was a CAC that day as well, and I was able to observe that one, I guess, more so, and this one will be my first report. So in this last 4 weeks, our upstairs CSR rep, our public works clerk, and executive assistant, and also our recording secretary have all been very helpful in my transition into the director's role. In fact, everyone in town hall and public works have been so very helpful and welcoming. I want to thank them all. I've been meeting weekly with our public works crew to discuss ongoing works and maintenance issues, and I speak to them daily with the public works director or the super, Richard Boyd, and foreman, to inform them of resident calls or complaints, and seem to be getting those things checked off the list. When I first arrived, I had, I think, 30 or 40 phone messages that were somewhat old, but took me a few days even to get through them all, but they seem to be getting those checked off the list. I have these things under administration. I'm not even sure when to put. There's a sort of a template that we do here, but I'll keep going along here. We purchased a new case skid steer by tender. It closed before I arrived and kind of sat around for a few weeks, so we finally got that selected and ordered from Port Williams local company Van Ostrom's Farm Equipment. Because it was delayed a bit, they sold the one they had sort of earmarked for us, so it will be delayed a bit, but it'll be arriving in early December hopefully, and we'll be trading in our CAT skid steer on that new case skid steer. So the boys are pretty excited for that to arrive at Public Works. We closed a couple tenders, one for winter salt hauling and one for winter parking lot maintenance, and they were awarded to GK Morris and PK Construction respectively. And I attended last week my first safety meeting here at it's held once a month in Town Hall and chaired by Kevin Bennett on November the 6th. Under programs and operations, we signed off on the Encore development plan as Bev mentioned. So that work is now able to be built as soon as weather and and things cooperate. Looks like this season it's too late to be breaking ground up on that site, so I suspect from talking to the owner's engineer that they'll be starting in spring of 2020. Parsons Investments Phase 2 or phase of their McDougall Heights subdivision is now complete. Construction is done. The roads are curbed and paved, and they'll be should be submitting final survey plans and a takeover package, opening up 25 new single-family building lots in that subdivision. Under Public Works, I have the new bridge down here. We don't have a lot of involvement. Most of our work is now, ours is now complete. We had to move some infrastructure, seal off the old water main, put a new water main under the river. All that happened prior to me joining the town, but the work continues to sort of move at a steady pace. But we have, I don't really visit that site on a regular basis because it's managed by the province. Capital paving project, Dexter Construction is finished on Chester Avenue, School Street, and Campbell Road, and they are 95% done up on Canaan Avenue. It's all paved now, new sidewalk from the bottom up to Lacewood Drive. Just a few finishing touches that they'll complete this week, weather permitting. The capital pipe work, Mid-Valley Construction has that contract, and they finished the rock line ditch up on the Donald Hiltz Road that was damaged from some of the storms we've had back from June right through to Dorian. So that's complete now, and they are well underway on the Park Street storm sewer curb and sidewalk extension that goes from Kentville Toyota out to Anderson Boulevard to complete that sidewalk to Bonavista Estates. The remaining projects for them to complete before winter shutdown are Blossom Drive, sanitary replacement through sort of a backyard easement that services most all of that subdivision on Apple Tree Lane subdivision, Apple Tree subdivision, that's what it's called, I guess. Prospect Avenue sanitary, there's a section there they're going to replace. It's been giving Public Works some grief with blockages. That's going to be replaced this fall as well. And in East Main Street sidewalk and retaining wall is also scheduled to be replaced this fall. Although the construction season is coming to an end, we feel these can be completed as long as Mother Nature cooperates. We're making final decisions now on a fuel card lock system for the gas and diesel pumps at Public Works. That will allow for computerized tracking of fuel used by Public Works, the Water Commission, REC, and police. Kentville Police Services vehicles, so that system will allow us to download it monthly or however often we choose to keep track of which vehicles or which operators are fueling up and how much they've used and what department to charge that to, because sometimes it takes I think Kentville Police were getting bills not on a frequent matter because those numbers weren't getting back to our billing clerk to get those out, but this should keep the paperwork going smoothly and not really anybody to be accountable out at Public Works, because really it has been the mechanic to try to man the pumps when someone comes to fuel up. So he won't have to do that now. Everybody will just come in and swipe their card or their key fob and access the pumps. It's all tracked. And the last round of patch paving for 2019 is going to be finished up by mid-month. They were just doing some of the last ones, I believe, last week, and they may have a few more spots to hit. That's Howard Little Excavating, who has that patch paving contract, and I think they're pretty well done for the season with the patch paving. Under the Kentville Water Commission, we're finalizing a 2020 annual sampling plan now, which will be sent into Environment this fall for next year's sampling. There's a water main break on Main Street right out in front of Town Hall. So the leak was detected in our own basement under this part of the building, thinking first it was roof water and things getting in, but it got worse and discovered that it was certainly a under pressure sort of leak, and it was tested and found to be treated water. So the works crew sort of pinpointed to an area out in front of Town Hall, and then we had leak detection services come up from Halifax to pinpoint it. It's actually the sprinkler line that comes into this building that has a minor leak, but it's a minor leak out there, but it's a substantial one when it sort of comes into our own basement. So maintenance here, Ian's been kind of pulling his hair out trying to keep the floor as dry as he can, but it's a losing battle. So we're kind of waiting on Alliant to coordinate it, because the line goes under their duct bank, and because this was the old MT&T building, that's where the water's coming in. It's through the old duct bank that's in the basement of this building. So there's I think 14 old conduit that brought in all the lines into this building when it was run by MT&T, and that's where we're getting all the water. So we need to coordinate with them and get that fixed, hopefully this week. We're finalizing a tender for a propane generator out at Mitchell Avenue Well House that will allow our deep well pumps and treatment facility to run during a power failure. Businesses in the park, such as the new Robinson Cannabis, have the potential to operate during power failures, coupled with the limited storage in our small park reservoir that necessitate the need to supply treated water during extended power outages. And we've had some various, water service leaks repaired around the town, just ongoing maintenance, and the boys are getting those fixed up. The sanitary sewer utility, there are two priority areas, Blossom Drive easement and a section on Prospect, I guess I mentioned earlier, that are being replaced under this year's capital works. So it's kind of duplication there, I guess, on my report. I attended my first Kings Regional Sewer Committee meeting back on week 1 with Councillor Savage. And as per Scott Quinn's presentation at last CAC operations field, the proposed aeration upgrades will help with the future odor issues and discharge compliance. A tender for the new aeration equipment at the regional lagoons closed last October 28th, and the low bidder was Gary Parker Excavating for $797,726. And they're expected to award that contract at the next County of Kings Council meeting. Public engagements. I met with multiple homeowners and business owners impacted by our capital works paving, pipe work, and sidewalks projects, just letting them know who I am and who to call when they have questions and concerns. Been frequent phone calls, of course, and site visits, and the odd drop-ins were moderate, and letter and email correspondence has been as needed. Meetings and events. Of course, we have senior staff meetings every Tuesday morning, and those vary from an hour to 2 or 3. It was Kelly's first week, I guess, last week, and we had a 2 or 3 hour meeting to get her up to speed on all of our roles and things like that. So it's going well. Attended a Kentville Business Park meeting with Lindsay, who chairs that committee, to discuss some of the business owners' needs in the park. And we had the great pumpkin drop at KCA last week. It was supposed to be the day after Halloween, but high winds delayed that to last Monday, and I couldn't attend, unfortunately, because I had a conflict, and so I missed the big pumpkin drop, which I believe the town engineer usually attends and helps judge the successful pumpkin protecting device. I believe the mayor attended that as well, and things went well, but I did miss that. So I'm open for questions. That's my report. Open for questions from council and mayor.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the director? Councillor Maxwell.
The slowdown signs, I'm assuming they'll come up pretty soon, because we've already had some snow.
Time to pull us up in the mostly the subdivisions and side streets. That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm just wondering, and you might not be up to speed on these
Mhm.
issues, so
Nope.
I'll hand them over. But I'm kind of wondering where we stand with the sod and weed problem on Belcher Street, on either side of that new sidewalk that was put in. If we have a plan in
Did you
place
say
for
sod and the weed?
sod and weed, if we
Weed.
have a plan in
The
place
grass
for
didn't
the
take
spring.
particularly well, I understand.
Yeah, no, and
Contractor called last week looking for his holdback.
Mhm.
So we haven't released that
No,
as yet.
that's
as
good.
yet. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm going to look into that and see, you know, what was in their contract and, you know, how they,
yeah, they used a lot of dirty soil, and
Yeah.
there's a weed problem there that
am I
we've
correct?
never seen on
Was
that
it, was
road.
it, was it sod or hydroseed? Do you know?
No, it was sod.
It was sodded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a real mess, so I'm just hoping that we'll get something in place for the
I
spring.
will check on that because
Look
they,
after
yeah, they're
that.
looking for their money, so.
Okay.
Money
And one other
talks.
question. The Burke subdivision has been due for major infrastructure and road work.
That's correct.
For several years. And I know that we were waiting for some infrastructure funding to come through. I don't know if that ever came through, and I'm just wondering what the plan was going forward. These residents have been waiting for quite a long time for this problem to get
I
solved.
do know, I saw the design drawings were,
Mhm.
you know, were commissioned quite, I think, maybe 2 years ago, and I think the project, I'll have to check and see which, it was probably on the radar for.
Yeah, at one point, our
previous season,
CAO
yeah.
had said, you know, he was, you know, hoping that we would be able to do, if nothing else, half this year and half,
Mhm.
you know, another year. But it just seems to have fallen by the wayside, and I don't know if we didn't apply for infrastructure funding, or if it didn't come through, or if it went somewhere else.
I think it's the
or-
province right now. The feds have money, but the province isn't putting their third, and the feds won't give theirs unless the province does. So, you
Mhm.
know, I think we're prepared to do our 1/3, and so is the province, or so is the federal government, but it's not coming from the province, is my understanding.
That's correct.
Yeah. I'm hoping that we can
Mhm.
get a solve to that problem before you have some major
Yeah.
problems up there. So, okay, thank you.
Is there anything further? All right, Director Bell, you got off easy tonight.
Pretty good, thank you.
Thank you. All right, communications report. CAO, are you, okay.
So the communications report consists of myself reporting on council and administrative activities, Lindsay Young reporting on economic development and community activities and events, and also Ashley Alders reporting on recreation activities. The three of us work together every week. We come together to talk about the things that we're working on, how we're getting messages out, how we can be more creative, and learning from the different strategies that we all use for our different kinds of events. So I would say the highlight for this month has been kind of working on making sure that our new website looks as clean and accurate and updated as possible. We want to make sure that we get into a routine of keeping it updated and clean and up to date with as many activities, populating our community calendar, which is really great. If you haven't had a chance to look at our community calendar, it's under the What's Happening on our website. It's really getting full of lots of community events as well as our own events. I think that's it. Any questions?
Are there any questions? Councillor Savage.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment, and I always like to, if there's good news, I always like to say it. So when I was at NSFM, the mayor of Truro, sorry, I don't know what that was, anyway. Oh, hello? It doesn't matter. Anyway, the mayor of Truro said that he was sending 2 of his staff here, or two employees of the town of Truro, I should say, and they were coming to learn more about the communications pieces that you folks do here, and he sang your accolades, so just wanted to pass that along.
Thank you.
Oh, presentation.
I would say Storm came together at the Association of Municipal Administrators Conference. I gave a presentation, but Storm was there with me in the audience. The three of us talked about the different creative ways that we've been sharing information, and from that presentation, I'd say 5 or 6 people from across the province, from other municipalities, have contacted me personally about our subscriptions that we have, and our tools, and our Storm team, and things like that. So it was really great to share it at the AMA conference, and it's kind of nice to keep meeting about it with other people and sharing and letting people know that it's not, it might seem difficult at first to start doing videos or these little notices that we do, but you can get used to it, and it's really fun. Yeah.
Anything further? All right, thank you very much. CAO, your report.
Okay, so I don't have.
You don't have control.
I don't have control.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Thanks, Dave. Just the button at the top.
And there you go.
Good.
You have control.
Your Worship and Council, I'm not sure whether I should start this with a disclaimer because I take no responsibility. No, this is the former acting CAO helped me put this together because it is a report for October, and as you all know, I didn't get my feet under the desk until the 1st of November. So no stones, please. Just bear with me. So the Valley Waste Resource Management, as you're all aware, that is legal action, and it's been initiated. It's been in the press, and there's not a whole lot more to say about that, except that it will be an ongoing issue for a while. There's nothing to report with King's Transit. The Police Commission did meet on October the 4th. I wasn't there. I'm assuming you weren't either. So, union negotiations. So the collective agreement, I understand, is remains outstanding, and now that I'm on staff, I'm looking forward to getting that moved ahead and getting it resolved. Because there's nothing worse than having an outstanding collective agreement. Kentville Business Park continues to attract the interest from businesses looking to relocate, and our commercial realtor and staff have revised the marketing approach, which has supported the increased interest. And the Culkin building. The building remains for sale, and council approved a 2-year lease to the art gallery. Emails have been ongoing, drop-ins ongoing, phone messages, social media, seasonally topic-related, YouTube, the videos, CAC and council post meetings, and the video clip arts. And I'll just add that I was present for the communication team's presentation at AMA, and from my perspective, it was probably one of the better sessions out of the whole conference. I couldn't help, at that time I had accepted the position, but I couldn't help but thinking, yeah, okay, I can get on I like this. But they're a credit to you. The team is a credit to you. They did a fantastic job, and the interest was very high. You could just see the response around the room as they were giving their presentation, and you could read faces, and something to be very, very proud of. There was the October CAC and council meetings, investment advisory, weekly meeting with Able Engineering, weekly senior management meetings, and to my defense, yes, they did have a 3-hour meeting, but that was November, not October, so I can't blame the Director of Finance for that one. I have to take responsibility of that one. The meeting with the River Street Properties, I did get an update on that today with staff, so I think we pretty much need to just let it go and move forward. And then, if something comes up later and they come back and approach us, then they might be, there might be more interest at that time. anything in all council related. I've had an opportunity now to meet all of you, and thank you, and I look forward to being your CAO. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the CAO? Councillor Maxwell.
No, this isn't for the CAO, but it pertains to the CAO. Just after doing some networking and so on at NSFM, realizing that we are the hiring group for our CAO, I would wonder if I could have make a motion that all council members here be given a copy of the CAO's contract. We were not involved in that, and I'm told that this is something that we should have a copy of. So I would like to make a motion that we be given a copy.
I believe that would be in camera because it deals with personnel. It's not for public distribution.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, I thought it was a standard procedure, so okay, that's fine. Yep.
Is there any further questions for the CAO? All right, we've received all of the reports. If we could have a motion to adopt the staff reports as presented. Councillor Pulsifer, Councillor Bolland. It's been moved and seconded. The staff reports be adopted as presented. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to unfinished business. The first item that we have for unfinished business is the Mentoring Plus project. You'll recall that we had a presentation from Gordon Michael on October 15th, and at that time it was done in camera because of the fact that there was not a sitting government and they were receiving funding from the federal government. The CAO has had an opportunity to look at the presentation, but she has some concerns with the project and has requested more time to seek answers to questions. So it's recommended that Council Advisory refer this matter back to the CAO for time to gather more information and return with a recommendation on the Mentoring Plus project for the 25th of November council meeting. Thank you. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that Council Advisory refer this matter to the CAO for time to gather more information and return with a recommendation on the Mentoring Plus project for the 25th of November council meeting. Is there any discussion? The question is on adoption of the motion to Council Advisory to refer this matter to the CAO for time to gather more information and return with a recommendation on the Mentoring Plus project for the 25th of November council meeting. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you.
Can I get the wording for that motion?
Certainly. No, can't have it yet. Okay, our next piece of unfinished business is our council meeting calendar for 2020. So we have a recommendation that Council Advisory recommend the council meeting calendar for approval to the 25th of November council meeting. Thank you. Second. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that Council Advisory recommend the council meeting calendar for approval at the 25th of November council meeting. Is there any discussion? Councillor Bolland, please.
Yeah, thank you. I think, obviously, as we approach October election date, there may be some tweaking of that, but that date's not announced, so.
The date of the election is October 17th. The second Saturday of October is always the election in Nova
that's
Scotia.
still the
It's
same.
a fixed date.
Okay, so
Yep.
that's allowing for that? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to recommend the council meeting calendar for approval on the 25th of November council meeting. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. All right, CAO, if I could have you go through our correspondence, please.
First correspondent, Your Worship and Council, is from the Kentville Wildcats, and it is, Dear Mayor Snow and council members, the 2019 Kentville Wildcats senior baseball season has come to a close, and we are currently thanking those who are instrumental in helping us achieve our best season in recent years. Town of Kentville is at the top of that list. As you know, we run a very tight, no-frills budget. With the financial assistance the town provided, we were able to balance our budget and have a small cushion for the 2020 season. We continue to have fundraisers to offset our expenses. However, the show of support in providing a grant of $2,875 was a significant relief for all involved. We would especially like to thank Councillor Maxwell for championing our cause. Her understanding of our importance to the town was positive reinforcement of our commitment to providing recreational opportunities to our area and baseball entertainment for one and all. Again, on behalf of the Kentville Wildcats Baseball Club, thanks for your continued support in our baseball endeavors. Sincerely, Margaret Van Blarcom, and she's the director.
Thank you. All right, and next.
And the second item is from 14 Wing Greenwood. They would like to formally invite myself, or the mayor and myself, and one town council member of your choosing to the outreach tour taking place here at 14 Wing Greenwood on Thursday, the 28th of November. It would involve a bus tour of the wing, as well as finger foods, style luncheon, and discussion to follow. The exact timings are to follow, but I anticipate it would run from approximately 9:30 to 1:30. I'm hoping to have names and numbers finalized by 14th of November with an exact agenda to follow. Please send me the names when you can. Be in touch. Captain Matt Zaylot, he's the Public Affairs Officer for 14 Wing Greenwood.
Do we have a volunteer?
When is it?
28th of November, the morning of.
Are they opening this to all different towns and municipalities?
Yep. Yep. No, this is the first time that it's happened. They have a new wing commander there, Brendan Cook, and he is he's very committed to community outreach. You're going to see several changes occurring at 14 Wing. For example, Rachel was talking about that, the Kings County recreation brochure that goes around. Well, the intent is for Greenwood to actually go in there because they're encouraging civilian population to use their gym facilities at 14 Wing. So there's lots of stuff happening from that perspective, and this is one of the outreaches.
I've had it pretty,
I'm gonna be away that day.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
at
right.
the bank. Yeah.
All right. We'll move on to our new business. Our first piece of new business is the Regional Emergency Management Organization Winter Storm Plan. You saw the presentation and you heard the motions. So we have a recommendation. The Council Advisory recommend the Remo Winter Storm Plan for approval to the November 25th Council meeting. Thank you. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that Council Advisory recommend the Remo Winter Storm Plan for approval to the 25th of November Council meeting. Is there any discussion? Ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to recommend the Remo Winter Storm Plan for approval to the November 25th Council meeting. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I just want to add
Thanks, Dan.
I just give happy news, I'm sorry.
All right, CAO, am I handing this one over to you? This is Commissioner's support to council meetings?
You certainly can.
Thank you.
You do have the report in your packages, and it evidently has come to the attention of staff that the building is in greater need of security, particularly around when you're having your council meetings. It's very open downstairs. The whole finance department, with the exception of the offices themselves, is very open, and even up here, people can get off the elevator. They don't necessarily have to come into council, and they can. There's a lot of places where person could hide. Or so the staff undertook a review, and the recommendation, as you can see, and is that we look at the Corps of Commissioners as an alternative at this point. There is a costing there in your packages. It always amazes me at the cost of using the Corps of Commissioners based on the quality of the members of the Corps. They're retired military personnel, policing personnel, bylaw enforcement, very highly qualified and skilled people. And the cost, it always leaves me speechless. I mean, $20 an hour. So I guess what I'm looking for at this point is if this is something that council is looking at to entertain. Would you like more information? Do you have enough information? Input, please, and thank you.
So do we want to discuss this without a motion on the floor? And all I need is consensus for us to go forward with that. You're shaking your heads? All right, Councillor Andrew, you were first on the button.
Do we have to have the elevator accessible during meetings? Okay. No, that was just.
Okay. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. And I think Daryl might know something about this. I believe it was the use of force instructor discussed at the police commission meeting. Is doing up a report for the chief on the overall security of town hall in general. She was not getting that until today. I haven't received a copy yet. I don't know whether she has. Do you know if anything's? So I'm not against this, but I think if the officer is putting a report out, it would be nice to get their take on what we need. Not to say that we wouldn't use the commissionaires, but that's what they do.
Does that work for you?
Absolutely.
Does anyone else have any further comments with regards to this? So Deputy Mayor will probably report back through commission with the results of that, and then you guys have the ability at Police Commission to task the CAO to proceed with this. If so,
What I'll do sooner than later is when we receive a copy is I'll send it out to CAO and all council and the mayor, and they can have a look at it for when it comes up next.
all right, so this is table pending outcome from Police Commission, and then it may come back to us.
Yep.
All right, we're moving on then. So the next two items are review of existing appointments to council committees and review of council representative on community committees. And in deference to the new CAO, there is a request to refer the committee details back to staff for review of committees and composition, and staff to provide a report to council meetings. With the new CAO, we've got a new look on things, and perhaps new naming convention and the whole 9 yards. And further, that staff would provide us with an updated recommendation to the 25th of November council meeting. Could I get someone to move that recommendation?
So moved.
Thank you. John, Kate. Okay, so we have, it's been moved and seconded that council advisory refer the review of the council committees of staff to the CAO and committees to the CAO and staff, and further that staff provide an updated recommendation to the 25th of November council meeting. So it's not delaying anything other than our discussion. So basically they'll take it away, look at it, kind of put it back in some kind of order, and then bring it back to us at the council meeting on the 25th for our review. And as always, we'll have a few days to look at it, and we can have discussion at that point in time. So is there any discussion on this, referring these two items back to staff? Councillor Bolland.
So staff are gonna look at basically what council members are on what committees and make.
No,
It sounds like that.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying
what are you
is,
saying?
we only update it once a year. So it's, as Deputy Mayor has already pointed out, it's already out of date. And when you look at things, one of the things that the CAO pointed out is if you look at the job of our admin and finance committee, really what she's calling that is it's the HR committee for the CAO. So why aren't we calling it that? There's other things like we've got traffic, and yet we've never met in the 3 years that we've been here on the traffic.
So basically, you want to get rid of the dead wood, review what we're doing now, and just update everything, as opposed to saying this person would be better on this.
People are still where they are.
Yeah.
And if you, on November 25th, if you come back and say, I want to be on a different committee, who wants to swap with me? That discussion can still occur. That's not what the CAO or staff is going to do. We decide who's on the committees. So if you have changes that you want to make, you do that. Much like Deputy Mayor and Councillor Maxwell last year, Councillor Maxwell took on the KCA PTA. So that was just a swap out there. So.
So there's an appetite for another committee to be created, such as an environmental committee, where we stand with that.
Well, I think
it's time we discuss that.
I think after our discussion, and that's a really good discussion point, but I think we also committed this afternoon to look at what we've got on our strat plan and say how we wanted to move ahead. So I think that would probably a good time to come out of that, so that we actually have marching orders that go with it, rather than just put a committee on a piece of paper with no substance to it.
And if I may, Your Worship and Council, there's some committees that you're going to have to add. So you have to set up your asset management committee, and you also have to set up your accessibility advisory committees. But both those, the asset management is something that we're going to have to start working on very soon. So that will be a committee of council. So basically, you'll have the original document that you have in front of you now, but what we'll bring to you is a recommendation, but there'll be no names attached to anything. It'll just be the committees. And then if we have the terms of reference for each committee, maybe we can put together a package with those terms in with the suggestions. We'll just try and pull as much together as we can. And then review, because I guess in my questions to the mayor this week, you do have a couple of committees that were set up for one specific reason, but their term has finished, so maybe we need to just remove that. And in the meantime, if you think of any new committees that you feel, that also can be a discussion, and then we can add those as well, which, as you just said, the environmental committee.
Oh, Councillor Maxwell?
These committees right now that are listed on here aren't accurate.
That's correct.
So we're going to update all those.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Councillor Savage.
Sorry, just so I'm clear. So when that's all looked at and it then comes back to council and then council ratifies, perhaps it's some of the renaming of the committees or additions of committees and the terms and conditions underneath. Oh, okay,
Yes,
that's great.
If I might add to that, there is an actual policy of council. It's policy G57, committees of council, so you'd need to be updating that policy, I expect.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you. Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to refer the review of the council committees to CAO and staff, and further that staff provide an updated recommendation to the 25th of November council meeting. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. All right, I think we ran out of public, so there are no public comments. We have confidential land business concerning the Culkin Building and the Lions Club lease, which must be conducted in a closed session. We require a motion to go into the closed session to discuss the agenda items. There may be recommendations coming from this discussion, but we will not return to Facebook Live upon completion of the presentation and discussion. If I could have a motion, please. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that this meeting move into a closed session. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried, and the time is 8:30. And if we could go all clear on